Hi everybody, welcome to English 90. My name is Lillian Ruiz and I am the instructor for the class. And normally I would be teaching this class in person, but as you are well aware, there's very little that's normal about this time period. So instead what I've done is I've posted a class video of what I would have talked about in class during our first class. This is what I'm going to be doing over the course of the entire semester. And what I would do normally during the first class is I would review the syllabus, which gives you an idea of what the semester will be made up of, and the course outline, which is about the readings and the assignments that we'll be having. So I'll be talking about that today. And you can see on our Moodle side here in the top section, there are several links. The first is entitled Syllabus and Other Documents. And if you were to click on that, this is where you will find the syllabus that I'm going to be reviewing, as well as the course outline. And there is also something called Criteria for Essay Evaluation, which by the ending of the semester are all of the elements you'll be able to incorporate into your own writing. So that'll give you a sense of where we are headed. But I will talk about that as the semester progresses. I've also got a link for assignment due dates, and this lists out all of the dates in which you have assignments that you need to hand in. Now, these due dates are listed in the course outline, but I just wanted you to be able to access them very easily and readily. And I also have a folder for past class sessions. So what I'm going to be doing on Moodle is showing you that particular week of class. And when that week is over, I will be moving it to the past class sessions so that you can access it throughout the entire semester. But basically, when you access Moodle, you'll have access to the particular week that we are working on. I've also got 3 other links. One is called a discussion forum, and this is how I'm going to try to duplicate the kinds of conversations that we would have in class. So basically what I will be doing is at the ending of each of my videos, I will be asking you an attendance question, and you will be answering that attendance question in your discussion forum, and that basically will be your attendance for that particular class. And I'll be asking the kind of questions that there are no right or wrong answers. So as long as you respond to the question, you have fulfilled your attendance. So that's where you would answer that question. I also have an optional live chat room that you can access on Mondays from 1:30 to 2 o'clock. So if it turns out that you wanted to interact with me via chat, you can do that on Mondays. Or if you want to interact with me via Zoom, you can do that on Wednesdays from 1:30 to 2. That's your optional live Zoom. Again, these aren't required. These are just ways that you can connect with me. And if you're looking at our Moodle site, you can see that I've got week 1 listed, which is the 8th of September. This class would normally meet on Monday and Wednesday, so I'm going to be posting class videos on Monday and Wednesday. So basically this video is for the first class that we would have had for this week for Wednesday, and then there wouldn't be another video until Monday of next week. So basically, in terms of the syllabus, which again that you can access in the syllabus and other documents folder, you can see that there are various pieces of information listed, including my name, Lillian Ruiz. Most people call me Lillian. I'm pretty informal, but whatever is comfortable for you is fine. My phone number, and that'll get you to my office phone, and I will be checking my office messages so that I can get back to you. My office is North 328A, but this semester I'm not on campus. Instead, my office is my living room, which you're looking at right now. So you can access me through email, though, and you can see my email address, Ruiz, R-U-I-Z, @gcc.mass.edu, is just my surname, no first initial, because when I started at GCC, I can't believe how long it's been. It was in 1993. We didn't have standardization of email addresses with the first initial. And then, of course, that optional chat room that I was telling you about on Mondays from 1 to 2 o'clock, and the optional Zooms on Wednesdays from 1:30 to 2 o'clock. Now, office hours, you can either go to the optional chats or you can make an appointment with me, and we can have an appointment either via Zoom or through chat room or through telephone, whatever is most convenient for you. Now, the textbooks. Basically, there's one book. It's entitled College Writing Skills with Readings, 10th edition by Langham. Now, you could use an older edition, but your page numbers won't be the same as the page numbers that we are using in class. But if you're willing to find the chapters with different page numbers, you can do that. You can access the textbook in the GCC library or in the GCC bookstore, and I believe the library might also have a copy available. But that said, the text won't be needed until a couple of weeks into the semester, and I did that purposely because I know that people are adding and dropping and trying to get settled and so forth. So you do need to get the text, but you've got a little bit of time in which to do it. And I also have a note that it's assumed you'll have a good dictionary and thesaurus for reference. And in fact, we'll talk a little bit about that, about dictionaries and thesauruses at the beginning of the semester and how to utilize them. So course description, just to tell you what this class is about or to remind you, this class, English 90, develops the writing strategies, critical thinking skills, research methods, and confidence required in English Composition 1 and other college level courses. This course covers word processing and methods of using print text, electronic text, and databases, as well as techniques for evaluating those resources. So in other words, we're going to talk about some of the standard things that you're expected to know in terms of writing for college classes. And those are also the expected things you're supposed to know in the business world when it comes to writing. So that's how you can translate over this from your college classes to the workplace. Now, the course does not satisfy the English requirements of the college. This is considered to be a pre-college class. So what should have happened is you probably took some sort of an assessment that indicated that a kind of pre-college workshop to brush up on your writing skills would be useful to you. Or you made the decision on your own that you wanted to take a kind of brush-up class before you actually dove into college classes with a lot of writing and a lot of reading. So because of that, C- is the lowest passing grade in this course. The assumption is that you've either learned what you need to learn so that you can be successful in other classes, or you need to repeat the course. So there are no D grades. And again, there's no prerequisites, so this class is open to anyone as many times as they want to take it if you want to brush up on your writing skills. So, student learning outcomes. As a result of successfully completing this course, students will be able to 1. Appreciate reading and writing as enjoyable, significant, and relevant. And I don't know if I can necessarily convince you that it's enjoyable, but it should not be painful. And if you think about the significance and relevance, especially with how the world has gone online and the importance of online communication, I think that writing has become even more significant and relevant in just the last couple years or so. To see writing as an ever-evolving process. You continue to improve your writing. I continue to improve my writing. So I know my writing is better now than it was 5 years ago, and it'll probably be better 5 years from now. But the idea is to improve it as much as we can within this period, and then to continue practicing those skills. To examine the writing techniques of other authors, as well as develop the student's own voice in writing. So I'll have readings from other authors for you to read. To improve oral and written communication skills. We all have oral and written communication skills. The idea is to expand and develop them. And to effectively use word processing and internet research in the writing process. I'm sure we've all been in a situation where we've looked for something online and we haven't been able to find it, or we've wasted a lot of time looking for it. So how to be efficient about utilizing these resources. English 90 provides an introduction to the writing process and to critical thinking skills. And critical thinking is probably something you're going to hear a lot of in college. Critical thinking is basically asking questions, interpreting, analyzing. It's doing what toddlers do very well. They ask questions, especially the question why. And in my mind, that's the difference between high school and college. In high school, you learn what. In college, you begin to ask why. So the purpose of this class is to help students prepare for, yes, the next level English, English Composition 1, the level of English that all students have to take at the college. But most college classes require a good amount of reading and writing. So basically, writing skills are important in everything when it comes to college. Among other topics, we will examine thesis identification and formation, sentence, paragraph, and essay structure, usage and grammar, and revision skills. So basically, if you don't know what these things are, do not panic, because by the ending of the semester, you will. That's my job. is talking about what all these things are. Procedures. So how am I going to do that since we're not meeting in class? I will post, number one, a video of myself discussing class material by the time our class would normally meet in person. For us, that would be Monday, Wednesday at 10 a.m. And the video might be posted before that, but it will certainly be posted by that time. And then number two, you have a 24-hour deadline to watch that video for the class and answer the corresponding attendance question in our class discussion forum. And that's in the section at the top of Moodle. If you can't make the 24-hour deadline, just ask me for an extension. I'll be happy to give you more time. I'd much rather that you have an extension and do something well than you do something poorly trying to make a due date. Your answer on the discussion form, again, is your attendance for that class. Any additional interaction you have with your classmates in that discussion forum is considered participation, similar to participating in a live class. And I know some students learn best by participating, others learn best by listening. So you can decide for yourself how much or how little you want to participate. So you don't necessarily have to respond to the posts of your classmates. You should, however, read all of the discussion responses from your classmates and also my responses to those responses, since I will be responding to everyone. And this will give you an idea of the kind of class discussion that we would have had in class. And then I will hold, as I indicated, that optional chat session Mondays, 1:30 to 2, and optional Zoom sessions on Wednesdays from 1:30 to 2. No penalty for not attending, but it's just another opportunity for you to engage in class participation or to interact with me. And then the written assignments that we have, and we won't have any for a little while because I want us all to get settled. The written assignments, whether they be journals or papers or final exams, and I'll talk about all of those in a few moments. I'm going to ask you to send them to my email, again, which is Ruiz, R-U-I-Z, at gcc.mass.edu via PDF. Because that's how my grading program works, through PDF. And then what I can do is, through my grading program, give you individualized feedback and send that back to your email. Course requirements, pretty straightforward. You're expected to do all the reading and the writing assignments by the due dates. There will be 4 graded out-of-class papers. Basically, I've divided up the semester up into quarters. So about each quarter, you'll be doing a formal writing assignment, to which I will be giving you some suggested paper topics. And I will set aside time so that if you wanted to, you could show your peers or myself your writing and get some feedback. There also is a final exam that is a component of the course. The idea is that the course culminates and you're being able to write not just a paper at home, the kind of paper that a college professor would expect, but also being able to write a college essay in class that a college professor would expect. So that's going to be our final examination. So that's what we are working towards over the semester. Now, there is an institutional services disability statement that Greenfield Community College values inclusion and equal access to its programs and activities, and is committed to fostering an environment of respect and full participation. Our goal is to create learning environments that are equitable, inclusive, and welcoming. So if there are aspects of the instruction or design of the course that result in barriers to your inclusion or your accurate assessment or achievement, please let me know as soon as possible. And if you are a student with a disability, or you think you might have a disability and you need a reasonable academic accommodation, please contact the Office of Disability Services as soon as possible to discuss your needs and options. And the contact information is in the syllabus. Now, usually what I assign in this class is something called a journal. It's an informal writing assignment where I ask you to look up information and I ask you to write a summary of it and your response to it. And usually I tell you to focus on current events. I've changed it around for this semester because I think that we are in a very unique time. And I wanted to try to make this journal something that would be more applicable to what we are all experiencing now. So I'm turning this into what I'm calling a wellness journal. And I wanted to read this section to you and then explain a little bit what my thinking is. That in addition to the above, students will be required to complete one assigned reading approximately each week for about a third of the semester. And I will be posting these readings for us on Moodle. Students will write a summary of these readings and a response to each of the readings. And I'll be giving you some suggested guidelines in class, but it's going to be pretty informal. Basically, one of the things I want us to learn how to do is how to write a good summary. And some of you might be taking the reading class and you might be finding that you're doing something similar, because one of the best ways to learn how to read is to write, and one of the best ways to learn how to write is to read. So there's a lot of overlap between the two. And as I indicated, these kinds of assignments would be submitted via PDF to my email, ruiz@gcc.mass.edu, and I would evaluate them very informally as on a checkmark system, as either excellent, which would be a plus, or a good, which is a check plus, a satisfactory, a check, less than satisfactory, check minus, or unsatisfactory minus. And I'm evaluating them for content as well as for grammar and mechanics. I wanted to give you practice writing, but in a kind of low stakes environment where you don't have to worry about it being an A or a B or a C. Late journals will lower your grade by 1 full grade, and no late journal will be accepted after 1 week has elapsed until you've made other arrangements with me. Unless you've made other arrangements with me beforehand. So do ask for an extension. And what I'm going to try to do is to find readings that are related to wellness, because I think that that's something that all of us can use in these very challenging times. So for attendance, I know we aren't meeting in class necessarily, but class activity and discussion is still extremely important and cannot be made up. So absences and tardiness will be negatively reflected in your participation grade. While each case is different, anything more than 2 absences could lower your grade. And excessive absences could even result in failure. You don't need to notify me that you're going to be absent for a particular class, but do speak with me if you miss several classes. So basically, as I indicated, at the ending of each of the videos, you will have an attendance question to respond to, and that will be your attendance for that particular class. And then you can consult with me during our optional chats or Zooms, or you can always make an appointment. Now, we also have formal writing assignments. Those papers I was talking about earlier, 4 of them over the course of the semester, each about a quarter of the way through the semester. And the information I have on your syllabus about the papers is more about the formatting or what a paper should look like, which we will talk about in greater depth. That the papers, they're due on the day specified, and they should be typed, double-spaced, and have 1-inch borders. So we'll talk about what that means if you don't already know. Pages should be numbered. Final copies should have a cover page that lists the paper title, your name, the course and section number, my name, and the due date. Again, we'll talk about that as well. Late papers will lower your grade by 1 full grade. No late paper will be accepted after 1 week has elapsed unless you've made other arrangements with me beforehand. So again, ask for an extension. I'll be happy to grant it to you. Please be sure to keep a copy of any paper you submit for yourself, and paper assignments will be distributed during the term. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide up the college paper into pieces, so each paper will be building on the previous paper and the skills at least of the previous paper. And you have the option to revise one of the first 3 papers because those are all due before the ending of the semester. Basically, if you earn a grade that you're not happy with, because these will be graded on the letter grade system, you can take my comments into account and do a revision where you would submit in your original graded copy along with your revision, and you get the higher of the 2 grades, which is basically the way professional writers write, and they go through lots of edits and so forth. So the original paper must be submitted with the revision. So you've got that option over the course of the semester. Your last paper will be due at the ending of the semester, so you won't really have time to do a revision for that. But by the time you get to your last paper, you should have a good understanding of what a college paper or a college essay is like. And we use those terms interchangeably. Now, there's a section here on plagiarism. I'm going to skip that section for now and talk about it next class, and instead go to the grading section. And this is probably what you were most interested in. You can see that there is a 10% participation grade, and that means basically watching those videos and answering the class discussion question. And 10% are the journals, those wellness journals that I'm going to have you do readings about and then summarize and give a response to for about a third of the semester. Your first formal paper or essay due about a quarter of the way of the semester would be worth 15%, and that's letter graded. Your second essay will be due about midway through the semester, and that will be 15%. Your third essay would be due about 3/4 of the way through the semester, and that is worth 15%. And then finally, your last essay at the ending of the semester, and that also is worth 15%. Plus your final examination, which will be open book, open notes, and it'll be an essay exam where I will ask you several essay questions based on your personal opinion or on your past experiences. So there are really no right or wrong answers. And the whole point of that is to be able to structure an academic essay in the way that it is expected, both in the in schools and also in the workforce. For an A, excellent, B, good, C, satisfactory. And I don't like talking about the other two letters that follow on the first day of class. So I'm just going to skip to the next section, which is the course outline. And the course outline is the other document that's listed in your syllabus and other documents folder. With a couple of disclaimers, you can see that dates and assignments may be subject to change. And also readings should be completed prior to the dates indicated, because this is what I'm planning on talking about during those particular dates. So number 1, on the 8th, Wednesday, though you might be watching this on Tuesday, because Tuesday is when the semester begins, but this counts as our Wednesday class, is the introduction, where basically I just tell you about the class. And then next week, what I wanted to do was to give you some handouts. On the 13th, on Monday, I will have some handouts for you about your attitude about writing and also your learning styles. And I'll talk a little bit about what also those mean. And I wanted to talk a bit about word processing, email, and the internet as well. I'm hopeful that on the 15th, I can arrange to have a virtual library tour for us. That said, it might have to be on another date, which is why I've got the 15th with library tour with question marks, and I'll just change around things if we have to do that. And then on the 20th of September, which puts us into week 3, which is when I would expect that you would have the textbook. This is when there are textbook readings that I would like you to have read before that class on the 20th, because this is what I'm going to be talking about on September 20th. A section entitled How to Read Well. Langen is the name of the author of the textbook. So from Langen, How to Read Well, that's on page 635 to 638. Summarizing and Paraphrasing, that's on page 410 to 427. How to Make It in College Now That You're Here, which is an essay on page 702 through 707. And I also wanted to arrange to have some sort of a learning center introduction, some peer tutoring introduction for you, but you can see that that's also scheduled with question marks. That will be virtual, and I'll see what I can do. If I can't do that on that particular date, I'll just reschedule for another date. And then on the 22nd, you can see that I'm having you read the first chapter before the 22nd from our textbook, Introduction to Writing, pages 2 through 20. Well, it's exactly as it's called. It's an introduction to the writing process. On the 27th of September, this is where you will have read the writing process on pages 24 to 51 and effective word choice, 610 to 615. It's also when your first journal will be due, so I would have given you a reading to read and to summarize and to respond to it before this so that you could hand it in on the 27th of September, the ending of the month. And then on the 29th, you can see that we are reading in Langen the next chapter, the first and second steps in essay writing, 52 to 84. So these are the topics that I'll be talking about in class videos. Week 5, on the 4th, there's the third step in writing, pages 85 to 111, verbs, page 507 to 515, and more about verbs, page 525 to 529. And then on the 6th, we've got the third and fourth steps of writing, 112 to 135. Subjects and verbs, pages 173 to 178, and subject-verb agreement, page 518 to 522. And this is when your second journal will be done. So by that point, you would have gotten your first journal back. You would have gotten a new reading to do so that you could summarize and respond to it and have a journal due. And then week 6, you can see that on the 11th is a holiday, Indigenous Peoples Day, so we wouldn't have class on that Monday on the 11th. But on the 13th, we would talk about 4 bases for revising essays, pages 147 to 175, and sentence fragments, page 481 to 491. Then we move into week 7, and this is when your first paper is going to be due. So we would have had plenty of time to talk about how to write a paper. And that would be on the 18th, which is a Monday. While we're talking about in class developing an essay on page 176 to 200, and run-ons, page 495 to 504 on the 20th of October. Then on the 25th of October, we'll talk about the comma, and that's on pages 589 to 595. On the 27th of October, we'll talk about a different kind of writing, resumes and cover letters, and how to do well on a job interview, which is also important in terms of preparing yourself for the future. This is when your third journal will be due. Again, I would have distributed a reading to you ahead of time for you to read, summarize, respond to, and then give back to me. And then on week 9, and that would be the 1st of November, we'll talk about the apostrophe on pages 574 to 579. Quotation marks, page 581 and 587. Using direct quotation, page 427 to 429. And also other punctuation, that's on a handout that I'll be giving to you. Starting on the 3rd of November, I have a series of essays for you to be reading, so we can talk about the writing techniques of other authors, and eventually you will be writing your own response to one of these essays. So the first one is entitled Single-Sex Schools, from page 695 to 698. As you can probably guess, the reading is about single-sex schools. And this is when your 4th journal will be due. Again, I would have given you a reading to summarize about wellness and respond to it. And then week 10, on the 8th of November, is when your 2nd paper will be due. So you would have already gotten an assignment for paper number 2, and you would have worked on that. And the reading we'll talk about in class is Google Making Us Stupid, on page 728 to 732. On the 10th, we continue on with another essay to read, Propaganda Techniques in Today's Advertising, 338 to 343. And then the last essay I wanted you to read on the 15th is Taming the Anger Monster, and that's on page 293 to 297. Meanwhile, on the 17th, I wanted us to read Pronoun Agreement, page 530 to 535, Adjectives and Adverbs, 545 to 549, Misplaced Modifiers, 552 to 554, and Dangling Modifiers, 556 to 558. And this is when your 5th journal will be due. And then you can see that there are more assignments that are due towards the ending of the semester. Then we have on the 22nd a practice final. So I wanted to give you an idea what a final exam would look like. It wouldn't be graded, but I wanted to give you feedback on it just to give you a trial run. On the 24th, we'll talk about capital letters on pages 562 to 568, numbers and abbreviations, 570 to 573, and citing sources, 440 to page 444. This is when your 6th and final journal will be due, the last wellness journal. And then you can see that in week 13, I've set aside time so that I can meet with each of you, whether it be on email, chat, or Zoom. We'll work that out when we get to that point in the semester, just to see how you're doing and what questions and concerns you might have. This is also when you can hand in your 3rd paper when we meet. And then week 14 is when you are going to be presenting some of the information that you did in your journals. So you're going to synthesize everything that you did in your journals and present that to your classmates, so that they can get a sense as to what your responses were. But again, you get to decide what to disclose or not disclose to your classmates. So I wanted to make sure that the writings that you do, I'm the only one who sees them. But when we get to the very ending with the journal presentations, this is when you can talk about your journals with the class as a whole. And you can do that via writing through the class discussion forum, or you can do that through video if you so wanted to, if you've got access to recording equipment and you wanted to post that. So I will basically leave it up to you. And then we have a catch-up class on the 13th in the event that we fall behind. And then our very last class, which is when our very last paper is due, paper number 2. Early paper is always encouraged. This is where we're summing up, and I have a handout for you entitled Miracles that I thought would be a nice way to end the class. Our final exam is scheduled Monday, December 20th at 10:30 a.m. So that's when I will post the final. And as I indicated, I will give you 24 hours to respond. You should take approximately 2 hours or so to do that final exam, but you would have 2 hours or so to respond. So the only thing that's left is there's a handout for criteria for essay evaluation in the syllabus and other documents folder, which I will reference when we start talking about assignments. And the last piece would be today's attendance question, which is asking you to introduce yourself to the class. So you can be as long or short as you'd like to be. Feel free to upload video or photos if you'd like, but not required. But basically, this is what we would have done if we were meeting in person, is that you each would have introduced yourselves or a partner to the class. So this is what we're going to be doing for our attendance question, which you would answer in the class discussion forum section. And since technically we're not supposed to be meeting until Wednesday, your response wouldn't be due until 24 hours later. So that would be Thursday at 10 o'clock. So I hope you are all doing well. Welcome to GCC. And I'm assuming most of you are new students to GCC, but that might not be the case. And again, I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing well. And next week, we will continue on talking about English 90 and the writing and reading process. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.